Good evening and welcome. You're watching the NewsTrack. I'm Rahul, Kanwal. A massive terror attack in Kashmir's Pahalgam. Home Minister Amit Shah rushing this evening to Srinagar. This weeks before the Amarnath Yatra starts in the valley. That's my top focus on the NewsTrack tonight.
Terror strikes Jammu and Kashmir tourist hub. Terrorist target tourists in Pahalgam. Tourists hunted down and killed. One of the worst attacks on civilians. Pakistan's clear target, innocent tourists. Terror bleeds Jammu and Kashmir. Big focus on NewsTrack.
It's one of the worst terror attacks on civilians in Jammu and Kashmir in recent years. Lashkar proxy, the Resistance Front or the TRF, opened fire on tourists in Pahalgam. It was a non-motorable area, peak tourist rush hour, when tourists were targeted by terrorists who were horse riding. Here's more.
At around 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday, there was fear and panic at Kashmir's tourist hotspot of Pahalgam. 2 to 3 terrorists from the Resistance Front, a proxy of Pakistan-backed Lashkar-e-Taiba, opened fire. Their target were innocent tourists who were horse riding. Dressed in military fatigues, the terrorists hunted down non-Muslims.
क्या बोलते भेलपुरी खा रहे थे मेरा पति साइड में था एक इंसान है उसने उसको गोली मार दी यहाँ पे उसने बोला कि शायद मुस्लिम नहीं है उसने उसको गोली मार दी नहीं
आप टेंशन मत लो अब बेटा आप यहाँ पे रहो हम साथ में मैडम ये जो वहीद साहब है प्रेसिडेंट आप टेंशन मत लो
मेरे पति का बच्चा लो
हम बचा देगा कोई बात नहीं बेहतर करेंगे फोन दब से मन युवा डिजाइन किया है ठीक है हम बचा देंगे ना आप टेंशन मत लो मैं आ रहा हूँ मैं कहाँ पे आपका ये हस्बैंड
हमारे सामने जब फायरिंग हुई तो ऐसा 2-3 गोलियों तक तो हम समझे नहीं कि ये क्यों हमको लगा कि कहीं कोई फटाके फोड़ रहा मगर जब आवाज़ें आने लगी लोगों की जोर से तो फिर हम लोग अपने आप को सेव करके और वहाँ से निकल लिए ऐसे पैलेस पे कभी अटैक हुआ नहीं जहाँ टूरिस्ट ज़्यादा हो ये शायद पहली घटना हो सकती है
और हमने तो मौत को अपने सामने मौत से देखा है कि जो और गोलियां मुझे ऐसा लगता है 100 राउंड चली है मैं कांप रहा हूं अभी
Additional security forces were rushed in. Choppers were deployed and the terror spot in Pahalgam was cordoned off.
देखिए ये क्योंकि ये पहलगाम का इलाका है आप देख रहे हैं कि इस वक्त सुरक्षा की जो गाड़ियां हैं वो पहलगाम की तरफ रवाना है। फिलहाल जिस तरह से ये एक बड़ा मामला बन चुका है क्योंकि अगले महीने जो है अमरनाथ यात्रा भी शुरू होने वाली है और यही वो इलाका है जहां से यात्रा शुरू हो जाती है। सुरक्षा के लिए कहीं न कहीं चुनौती है।
In New Delhi, Home Minister Shah chaired a crucial security review meet. By evening, Amit Shah left for Srinagar, vowing that those behind this terror attack will not be spared. The Prime Minister, who is on a 2-day visit to Saudi Arabia, also took stock of the security situation in the valley. Prime Minister dialed the Home Minister and in a post on social media platform X declared that those behind this heinous act will not be spared. Their evil agenda will never succeed and that India's resolve to fight terror is unshakable and will get even stronger. 47-year-old Manjunath from Karnataka's Shimoga district was killed in the attack. Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah said that the Pahalgam terror attack is much larger than anything witnessed directed at civilians in recent years. With Mir Fareed in Pahalgam, Bureau Report, India Today.
I want to go across to my colleague Mir Fareed. He joins us from Pahalgam tonight. Mir, have we been able to understand so far where these terrorists came from? Where were they in the was this always the target? Typically, when an attack happens in the area where the Amarnath Yatra takes place, it happens during the Yatra or just before. This has happened several weeks, because that starts only on the 3rd of July. This has happened several weeks before the Amarnath Yatra. From the security officers that you're speaking to, what have you been able to gather?
Well, Rahul, you're absolutely right. Amarnath Yatra is round the corner, and the focus of the security agencies was to ensure foolproof security, because every year you have inputs. Inputs keep coming of Yatra being in the terror radar, and there is a set security protocol for that. But this attack seems clearly directed against the tourism season, against tourists. This is an attack that has been meticulously planned, an area chosen which is far off from main Pahalgam. If you have to reach this place, you will have to walk or use horses, a 30-minute trek, and quite clearly they took their time, they checked identities, and we've been told that it could be more, in fact 4 to 5 of them armed to their teeth, and because eyewitness account and people I spoke to said that the firing, the machine gun fire was coming from multiple sides. So that obviously explains why so many casualties, because I spoke to a senior CID source. He said that the casualties could go up to around 27. That's what he said, and that is an carnage. It is biggest terror attack of recent times. Last time Pulwama happened, but that was directed against belt forces. There was an attack against the CRPF, but purely if you talk of civilians, this is a massive attack. And then you also have to understand, Rahul, that the manner in which the injuries had to be brought down, now it was not easy. So that also has ensured that the casualties have increased, because many people, injured people have died because of blood loss. So there were many things that were against a rescue effort or against the security forces in this particular attack, and 4 or 5 could be involved in this, against whom a comprehensive search and combing effort is on right now. Pahalgam is deserted right now as far as tourists are concerned, because all of them have left. Understandably, they are in panic, their families back home in panic, but it is now a hub of security forces. All the top officers, civil admin, everyone is here, and they are expecting the Home Minister to come in any time from now and himself supervise the anti-terror operation.
Look also at that visual of the Home Minister marching at the Delhi airport with immense purpose. You can see the grit and determination on his face. He's clearly terribly unhappy about what has happened, and he's going on a mission. There you see, I have some sense of the man. He's marching there with a lot of purpose. He's going to Srinagar himself, which again is uncommon, because typically you would monitor such a situation from Delhi. The Home Minister ordinarily, after an attack of this nature, doesn't go. So there's a big message the terrorists have sent, and the Home Minister going to Srinagar to directly handle the operations and to speak to his senior counter-terrorism team and figure out what to do next. For perspective on what is at play, I'll come back to meet Fareed in a while. We let him go for the time being. I'm joined on this broadcast by Lieutenant General Tiny Dhillon. He's been the GOC of 15 Corps in charge of Kashmir. I have Lieutenant General K.H. Singh joining us. He's been co-commander of the 16 Corps. I have Sushant Sareen with us on this broadcast. Sushant Sareen is a leading strategic affairs expert. And I have Yashovardhan Azad, who's been in the Intelligence Bureau and is one of the finest policing minds in our country. I want to go across to General Dhillon first. General Dhillon, the last few attacks, particularly under the Modi government, the high-profile ones, have been on military installations, or they've been on military convoys. This manner in which the TRF has targeted tourists who are horse riding in Pahalgam, that too so far before the Amarnath Yatra actually starts for this year, what do you think the terrorists are signaling here?
Good evening, Rahul, and good evening to your viewers and fellow panelists. As you said, the previous attacks which have happened in the recent past were against the security forces. Now, after 5th of August 2019 and the synergized manner in which the security forces have been working, the grid is very strong and intelligence flow is very strong. Intelligence flow happens because people do not want to go back to those black days. They are earning well, their children are getting educated, and there is peace and there is prosperity. So terrorists have now shifted the focus away from the built-up areas into the jungles, because the moment they come to the village, the information flows to the security forces. And they don't have the wherewithal or the guts or the sort of heart or, जिसको कहते हैं जिगरा to attack the security forces. So they have chosen a very soft target of innocent tourists and who cannot defend themselves, who cannot retaliate themselves. And they timed it very well with the visit of the US Vice President to India and Indian Prime Minister visit to Saudi Arabia, so that this will get the maximum coverage. And everyone who was thinking that Kashmir peace has returned would feel that peace has not returned fully and Kashmir is still volatile.
So you think this is linked in your experience and expertise? You think this is linked to J.D. Vance's visit to India at this time?
See, historically, as every time a US president, maybe Bill Clinton or Barack Obama in the past have visited India, such like incident has happened, which brings Kashmir back into forefront of the focus. So this is very much a possibility that this has been linked to that visit. And the timing, the 2:30 in the afternoon, the place, 30 minutes walking distance away from the motorable road are very crucial. The objective area, an open patch, small valley, surrounded by thick forest jungles all around. And those from jungles, you can cross over to 16 core area. Jal K.H. Singh is here. He knows that area very well. You can cross over towards Shri Amarnath Ji cave, and you can cross over towards Tral Bowl or other small bowls there. And then they took 30 minutes of lead time on that trekking track. Even if the security forces come, they will take at least 30 minutes after they dismount at the roadhead. And they finished, as per the reports, they finished the whole thing within 15 to 20 minutes. So everything was planned to the military precision. And then after 2:30 or 3 o'clock, they have adequate time to get into the jungle and get into the hideout before the last light. And security forces will take that much time to assemble, move to that location, climb up those 30 minutes, and then go into the area where they're going. So I think it's a military precision planned operation, cannot be done by TRF or they just a frontal for name of the Lashkar-e-Toiba. It has been done by Pakistan Army and planned by Pakistan Army, and they have only sent people here to execute it on ground.
Okay. Yashovardhan Azad, from your lens as a senior intelligence bureau official, two things. One, the Prime Minister's visit to Saudi Arabia, and for a long time, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan were in cahoots. Saudi Arabia saw Pakistan as their boots on the ground, their military force as an extension of their military. Now, Prime Minister Modi has been able to wean Saudi Arabia from Islamabad's embrace to a great extent. Second, J.D. Vance is at the Rambagh Hotel in Jaipur in a private family function. We've seen when Bill Clinton came, there was a big attack when he was president, and therefore there is a precedence to this as well. Looked at from an intelligence perspective, what do you think is at play? General Dhillon thinks this is not a proxy attack, this is not TRF or Lashkar. These to him seem like Pak Army regulars or retired Pak Army officials.
Well, I don't think they need not be Pak Army regulars. And if the TRF has taken, a claim that they have done it, it would be very well an exported arm, exported activity of Lashkar-e-Taiba. And the deniability is there because that the FATF watch is lifted from blaming the Lashkar-e-Taiba. Two things are very important. I think every time, whenever Amarnath Yatra is there, some activity or the other...
But Amarnath Yatra is very far away. Amarnath Yatra starts on the 3rd of July. It's only the 22nd of April.
Absolutely. It's symbolic. If the day announcements have been made, and just after the announcement, this has been done. And second is the Vance visit, which is a clear signal to the Americans that something internal is happening in Kashmir and it has not been exported by Lashkar-e-Taiba. One of the most important things is that the shift of terrorism against tourism, which does not even help the disgruntled ones in Kashmir because it's the mainstay of their economy, means that there is a complete tactical shift in the operations. But these TRF people, I mean, the way they have been able to access that area, the way they have pinpointed precision, killed those people and asking them, it's a kind of an ethnic cleansing because more than 100 rounds were fired and before killing, they even asked. And the wife said that they made out that he's not a Muslim and then they were killed. So apart from the migrants now, the total attack is on the tourist season. it will create a huge difference in J&K economy if the tourists don't go to Kashmir.
No, but they won't. For example, just in our newsroom, one of our producers who works on this show says that she was going to Sonmarg and probably Pahalgam next week, and her mom's told her not to go. So that's just the reality. The fact that, I mean, I'm planning a break to Gurez. I'm definitely going, but I come from a Fauji background. My mindset is very different. Most tourists would want to back off and not want to go, and this is peak tourism season there.
So what the reason, even I'm going to Kashmir for this only in May, just to be there for 5 to 7 days and see what is happening. But what has happened today is something very serious, is highly symbolic. And mind you, Pakistan might be great friends with China, but their Akka is America, where all their children study. And so they have to impress the Americans. And to impress the Americans that this is something internal, and what they are raising at the UN platforms is something, a reality. This act has been done, and therefore, I think the response should be very wise and calibrated.
Okay. Sushant Sareen, from your lens, I was speaking to a very senior Home Ministry official just last weekend, and he said that, there hasn't been a single recruitment of a local Kashmiri boy into the terror fold in the last several months. And while we hope to wipe out terrorism in Naxal areas, we may not be able to do that here, but we're ensuring that nobody is becoming no Kashmiri, authentic Indian Kashmiri is becoming a terrorist. Now, this basically sends a message that Sab Changa not see.
No, obviously, look, Rahul, one of the great maladies of the Indian nation state is to declare victory prematurely. And I don't know why we want to do it. We have achieved a lot in the war against terrorism in Kashmir. Tremendous achievements have been made at tremendous sacrifices. But have we completely gotten rid of the problem? No, we haven't.
Of course.
There remains a certain body of opinion which remains separatist. There also remains the Pakistan factor, and the Pakistanis have been openly issuing threats and warnings, whether through their generals or through their anchors like Najam Sethi and company, openly saying that the terrorism in Kashmir is going to be ramped up. Now, unless, of course, some of our former spooks believe that, no, we should continue to embrace the Pakistanis because, that is the way forward, we must move forward, etc., etc. The other guy is telling you are my enemy, and you are saying, no, you are my brother. Then there is some obtuseness among people in India also, which prevents us from thinking clearly on how to approach the problem. That is one part of it. The second part of it is that, look, tourism, yes, is important for Kashmir, but it's only about 10-12% of Kashmir's GDP. Okay. As far as the Pakistanis are concerned, the fact that a successful tourist season or multiple successful tourist seasons actually convey a sense of normalcy in Kashmir is unacceptable to them. Now, if that damages the lives and livelihoods of hundreds of thousands of Kashmiris, the Pakistanis don't give a damn about it. Okay, as far as they are concerned, they will fight India to the last Kashmiri. So they will want to attack tourism. And we have already been gloating that, tourism is such a success, that, record tourists are going, etc., etc. So obviously, tourism would have been a target. Number two, you've also had this high-profile visit. And there is this growing desperation in Pakistan because there is a certain recognition that a certain amount of normalcy is coming in, and the kind of atmosphere which existed in Kashmir in the past no longer obtains for Pakistan. So they need to ramp up the tensions out there. I think we should have anticipated some attacks like this. What happened was that we probably got lulled by the fact that the attacks that have happened in the recent past have been, small casualty numbers, 2, 3, 4, that kind of a thing. But this is a veritable massacre. This cannot be forgiven. This has to be retaliated. That, of course, the government and the armed forces and the security agencies will have to decide what is the form of retaliation that will have to take place. But if we are only going to reduce ourselves to condemnation and that we are going to remain kutti with Pakistan, then I don't think...
So let's take it one at a time. I want to come to retaliation, whether this requires another cross-border strike of the kind that we saw, but that would be just for a little later. I want to understand from Lieutenant General K.H. Singh, in terms of how his military mind reads the situation, the timing of the attack, the nature of the attack, the location of the attack. Sir.
Thank you for having me on the show. Rahul, I'll call this Pulwama movement of today. It is certainly, uh, it's certainly as serious as what Pulwama was, according to my thought process, directly controlled and directly ordered by the Pakistan Army. There is no way that a small group of people like TRF, they could organize and carry out such a strike with such intent, with cowardly attack on civilians. They are subhumans. And I'm very sure.
No, let me ask you a more specific question, sir. What is it about this attack that makes you feel that Pak Army regulars or former Pak Army Jawans and soldiers may have been involved? Why does it not seem like a normal terror attack? Do you explain that to our viewers, sir?
No, my point is that all those, the situation in right now, the visit of the Vice President of the United States, our own Prime Minister's visit there, and all these are known. These are timing. But why I'm saying that Pakistan Army has to be involved in this is the manner of operations that were carried out. Targeting Hindus, chasing them and killing them one by one. This is which will not be a normal terror attack to my mind. And this has to be linked to the ISI or the Pakistan Army, because this is their own chief has said it so much about Hindus and Muslims and all that.
Correct.
So I think this is a follow-up to what, it can be linked to that. That is why I am saying that this is a subhuman attack in the garb of jihadis. And they are not, I am of the opinion that they are not homegrown terrorists. Whether they are regular or not, I cannot
No, certainly.
say
That's quite clear that they're not homegrown terrorists.
Yeah.
I want to point two things out to our viewers. One, that the Home Minister has now reached Srinagar. Two, we're just learning that there are two foreign nationals of Indian origin who've also been attacked. So there are two foreign nationals apparently who've also been killed in this Jammu and Kashmir attack. I want to go across to Dr. Tara Kartha. She's been Director of the National Security Council Secretariat, NSCS. Has the larger strategic outlook on India's national security. Dr. Kartha, welcome. From the perspective of what the Pak Army chief has been saying, comparing Muslims to Hindus, signaling the fact that the lady says they asked for the name to determine whether that person is of a certain religion or not and then attack them. All that seems very, very insidious. I mean, usually when terrorists open fire, they would typically open fire on everyone. They're not going and asking people. That almost seems as if that's a very deliberate targeting that they're doing. That's a message that they're trying to say.
I think it is, you're absolutely right, Rahul. But I just want to come in here, since we've watched this for decades, I mean, this kind of thing going on. See, normally, even if it's a foreign terrorist group, there will be some local support. Otherwise, they can't operate. Right? Sure. Normally, that is what it happens. In this case, I can guarantee no locals will support an attack in Pahalgam at this point of time, because they are losing money. They will lose heavily because it's going to hit the Amarnath Yatra. This is the time when that region makes a lot of money. You get what I'm going with this? So it is somebody who has come across, which is why I'm saying there is it's a bit mystifying. Because the normal terrorists, quote unquote normal terrorists, will know that the locals are going to get extremely angry with this. So this is a slap in your face. And it has been delivered just days after General Munir went on record and told those Pakistani expatriates that Kashmir is a jugular vein. So what message is he sending? And we cannot, even if you want to sort of say that, we'll ask Pakistan to cooperate, given the numbers, given the nature, given the kind of state, the number of states which are involved, nationals, people from so many states, there is something very, 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 very wrong here. This is asking for trouble. If indeed the Pakistan link is 100%, in my view, it's already there. This is going to go into some very bad places.
Okay, let's now spend some time there. You're saying this is going to go into bad places. To find military minds have said that this very clearly militarily looks like an official plan by people who've been trained by the army, who've been in the army. It doesn't look like regular terrorists. So the question is, what should India do? And I'll start with Sushant Sareen this time. You know, we've had post Balakot, we've had Pulwama, Uri, two cross-border attacks mounted by the Indian Air Force and the Indian Army after terror attacks that happened. Do you think this is that kind of a moment? Has it breached that threshold? I'm told that, you know, there could be deaths upwards of 20 if that is finally, you know, what gets established. How should India respond? Sushant Sareen.
Rahul, from what I'm hearing, the deaths are upward of 24, right? So now the question is, how do you define a threshold? And frankly, this whole business of threshold, I think, has been done to death. At what point of time do you say, I am going to hit back and I'm going to hit back hard and I'm not going to worry about the consequences? When 20 die, when 30 die, when 40 die, when 50 die, can somebody define what the threshold is? Number one, how horrible does an attack have to be before we decide that it has crossed a threshold? And I think, you know, we cannot hide behind this threshold nonsense forever, which is what sometimes we often do. That is one part of the problem. The second is that, you know, sometimes you have to appreciate the enemy also. I've seen how the Pakistanis operate. They have already got pre-designated targets. And when something happens, you know, we saw when the Iranians launched missiles on them, within a day, they had retaliated. They had already picked their targets. They already knew, that selected the targets. And we have two generals sitting with you. We have a former intelligence officer sitting with you. I don't know if we have a similar system, because it should be almost like by tonight, something should have been hit in Pakistan or should be hit. And we should be able to anticipate that the Pakistanis will come back and we are going to, you know, sock them again. Something we did not do after Pulwama. We should have retaliated the second time. We should have gone up the escalation ladder. And by not doing it, we made a major mistake by not doing it. Because if you are trying to deliver a message to an implacable, inveterate enemy like the Pakistani, a civilizational enemy, then you have to take the war to them. And if you are going to be, you know, doing what, let's move forward, let's move on, that kind of nonsense, if that is the kind of love which is brewing and the milk of human kindness which is in the hearts of some of these characters, then forget about it. Then even 100 people die, it doesn't matter. So I would strongly suggest, you know, two generals are sitting out here. Do we have pre-designated targets? Have we worked out? Have we gamed how we are going to hit them? And we're not going to wait for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. This whole business of we'll strike.
No, but okay, you know, I understand Sushant's emotions and they're running high, but ultimately it's the military that needs to get the job done. Let me put that question to General Dhillon, who, you know, would be in a capacity where he would have had to plan such operations earlier. Now, Sushant Sareen, recommending go immediately, go now. You know, I come from a family of army personnel myself. I know the risk there is if you haven't thought this through, if you aren't sure, you could go in, you may get something, you may not get something. It could be far more disastrous than waiting till you're certain of where to attack. He also says, don't go after the small fish. Just going and bombing some random madrasa or terror compound isn't enough. Find a high-value target to go after, take that high-value target down. Whether it's in the army or in the terror forces, go after a high-value target. General Dhillon, I would love to see that happen, but practically from a military perspective, what do you think should be India's response?
Gaurav, to answer Mr. Sareen's query, there are options. There are options limited to a particular space. There are options on the line of control or international boundary. There are options limited by depth to A kilometers, B kilometers, C kilometers, and what have you. There are options limited by resources which will be applied. There are also options which have combinations in sector A, sector B, sector C, individually or jointly. So all these options are rehearsed, practiced, and it is just a matter of go. Now, even before that matter of go, the target profile has to be reconfirmed. You know, you have worked out on a target, you have worked out that option, you have worked out the plans. A confirmatory reconnaissance, as we call it in the army, either by ground or by air, by satellite or whatever means, is to again reconfirm your plans or modulate your plans or little bit of a modification here and there. There are options in military sphere, there are options in diplomatic sphere, in political sphere, in economic sphere. And it is a whole of nation approach. It's not only a military option which will be always taken. So it is the decision of the government of the day to decide what combination or standalone option is taken. I think I can speak only this and not beyond.
Okay,
because
let me put that question.
Defense intelligence chief, so I would not like to dwell more on this.
Sure. You know, senior Jammu and Kashmir leader, former Chief Minister Ghulam Nabi Azad now joins us on this broadcast. Azad Saab, welcome. You know, the fact you've been in charge of Jammu Kashmir security for a long time, given the fact that the Amarnath Yatra is still some weeks away, starting only on the 3rd of July, what do you make of the timing of this attack? When PM Modi is in Saudi Arabia, the American Vice President is in Jaipur, the terrorists have chosen this massive attack in Pahalgam.
Even in the past, we have seen whenever some big dignitaries were supposed to come, and I'm talking about the past 30, 35 years, and such incident would take place. And this time also the Vice President of America was in India, and subsequently the Prime Minister of India had to go to Saudi Arabia. He is there. So they have chosen in very calculated way this timing. The American Vice President coming here, gone back, the Saudi Arabia, our Prime Minister in Saudi Arabia, and maybe some other dignitaries will be there. And at the outset, I would like to condemn this attack. And I would like to say that every Kashmiri, I was in a meeting, indoor meeting, not public meeting in Srinagar, when this news came. Somebody telephoned me from somewhere, but I was not sure. And everybody, even some hotelier were there, everybody was condemning and abusing these terrorists in Pakistan left and right. So I think it's not only few individual. I think every Kashmiri, right, left and center, irrespective of religion, they are abusing the Pakistan and this nefarious activities. Because this is not first after a long time. There has been a surge in tourists for the last few years, and particularly this year, this was a record tourist. In 1 month, only to see the Tulip Garden, about 90,000 people had come. You can just imagine. So this type of activities of Pakistan and Pakistan Army, I think 3-4 days back while I was in Delhi, there was a statement by Army Chief of Pakistan, but I didn't take it seriously. But happening today's incident only after 3-4 days after this statement, I think is very much calibrated, and the Pakistani Army and Pakistani Fauj is behind this incident. But I'm sure...
How should India respond, Azad Saab? Twice we've had cross-border attacks, once by the army, once by the Air Force. How do you think the Modi Sarkar should respond to this?
What the government is of Pakistan?
No. How should our Sarkar respond to this, sir?
Well, it has. I must say that the Prime Minister, Home Minister, they have been saying in every function, and it's not only saying. One of the great things they had done during this regime in the past 11 years, that they had almost ensured that militancy and militants are totally neutralized in Jammu and Kashmir. It is after a long time that last year in 2024, they chose, instead of Kashmir, they chose Jammu province. So a number of incidents took place in different parts of the country. And I was thinking that now Kashmir is totally clear. Now, having this incident of today, that means they want to show that we have not forgotten Kashmir, we'll come back to Kashmir. So I think now the response from the government of India and the Pakistan Prime Minister of India should be very much strong and calibrated. That has to be very well thought of. And the message should go across that Pakistan and Pakistani Fauj should not take India for granted.
For sure. Azad Saab for joining us. Thank you very much with your thoughts. I want to go across now to General Singh to get his perspective on the options before us, because post-Uri or post-Pulwama strike attack would be quite predictable. I think Sushant Sareen is upping the stakes, saying go after high-value targets, do something bigger, do it sooner, General Singh, than to wait for 2 or 3 weeks before the attacks takes place. So have something like the Israelis would have in mind and then go after and take that target down. Lieutenant General Konsam Himalay Singh, your sense of how the Indian Army should respond to this?
My sense is roughly, General Dillon has clearly stated that we have various options at various levels. And mostly, the tactical levels are carried out under the orders of local commanders like Corps Commander or, the Army Commander. But when it comes to strategic crossing the LOC or IB, that's a political call. And as Prime Minister has clearly stated that terrorists responsible will not be spared, I think it says a lot. The options need not be discussed in the media, but I can assure you that Army has the options at various escalatory ladder. And the decision is normally, because most of the activities there on the LOC or the IB will have very, very serious strategic repercussions. Therefore, it's a mostly political call. But I assure you that Indian Armed Forces will certainly have options which are effective and which can be carried out within a given time. And not necessarily, it has to be at a time and place of own choosing.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, Yashovardhan Azad, your sense of how India should respond. Even Ghulam Nabi Azad saying there must be a determined strike back. What does a determined strike back potentially look like? And I also ask you about the deterrent impact of our attacks in Balakot, our attacks in Uri, across the line of control, because it kind of saw terror activity of this nature come down, but ultimately the Pak army has orchestrated this attack again, so it's not had a permanent impact of deterrence.
First of all, let me tell you that ideally, every attack from Pakistan should be rebutted equally and strongly. But the question is, when I say calibrated, it has to be on various fronts. Calibrated means a measured response. Of course, we consider the international opinion. The tourism economy may be only 15% in Kashmir. But the point is, if there are thousands of foreign tourists coming here, it makes an impression. We go every year to the United Nations telling them that, we have elections here and democracy is functioning. Why do we do it? Because international opinion is important. So number two, it's not true that the ex-spooks are lighting candles. Nobody lights candles. There is only one ex-spook who talks about talks, and that is Dullat, and I respect him for that. All the others are for hard responses. So what should be the response be? You see, every act by Pakistan of this kind, it should come with a cost for them. And there are various ways. I am not talking about the military costs here because the generals have said that there are many options. Should we go for those options? It's for the political leadership. I don't know, as you said very rightly, what we did earlier and when we attacked Balakot and certain other places, was that a deterrent? No. Because for Pakistan Army and the ISI, the cost has to be really heavy. It has to come in the form of FATF. It has to come in the form of condemnation by foreign countries. So number 4, in this particular case, what we should do
No, but that condemnation, I'm not sure I agree with you. They got off the FATF list finally. They were on the
Yes,
grey
they
list
did
for
get
a
off.
while, and that
I know.
condemnation means nothing. I mean, the Pak army, do you think they care about condemnation? They're
So
being
that's fine,
condemned every
that's
single
fine.
day. How does condemnation help, Mr. Azad?
So make it costly through other ways, and there are many other ways.
No,
and
Sushant Sarin's idea, I think there's a thought
already
there.
being done.
Pick high value targets. Don't just randomly target any one particular military or Air Force installation or a madrasa or a terror compound. Go after some high value target. Hit them where it hurts.
No. If it was so simple to attack the high value targets, why did we not pull out Dawood Ibrahim so far? There is a cost attached with attacking these high value targets. The generals know here. They know about the various options. Therefore, my last point is that get into this case, see if we can trap these guys. Second, evaluate the case, the crime, put NIA, prove it to the whole world that it is a Pakistani act, and then go in for a calibrated response, whether you make it costly through another way or a military option.
Okay, I've just got a new video from moments after this terror attack where you can actually hear some gunshots. So I'm going to just give you an opportunity to listen to this and then we continue this conversation.
मगर परमात्मा रक्षा करेगा बुजुर्गों का आशीर्वाद भगवान की कृपा से जरूर बचेंगे हम यहाँ पर अटैक हुआ आतंकवादियों का हम लोग बाल बचे हैं मगर परमात्मा रक्षा करेगा बुजुर्गों का आशीर्वाद भगवान की कृपा से जरूर बचेंगे हम
A video where he can actually where you can hear the terrorist firing. You can actually see some images, and then this gentleman filmed himself. Let Sushant Sarin respond to what we heard from Yashovardhan Azad, that A, it's not easy taking out a high value target, B, there's a chance the operation could go wrong, and C, there are retaliatory costs on India if we actually go after someone like a Hafiz Saeed, Dawood Ibrahim or Syed Salahuddin. So let Sushant respond to Yashovardhan Azad. Sushant.
Yes, so Rahul, here is the thing. There are no costless options ever. If you are only going to be looking for costless options, then forget about it. You know, okay, we carried out the surgical strike. But not all surgical strikes will be successful. There could be casualties in some of these strikes. There could be things which could go wrong in some of these operations. Similarly, you carry out, for example, you carried out the airstrikes, things can go wrong. So you have to be prepared for that first. Secondly, I think you have to, when I talk about taking out high value targets, you have a range of arsenal available to you. I suggest do something, expect a response from the Pakis, and then be ready to up the ante. After Pulwama, what the mistake we did was we did Balakot, the Pakistanis retaliated, and then we kept quiet. We didn't do anything. We should have retaliated. We should have gone up the escalation ladder. You have to start controlling the escalation dominance and be prepared that this could spiral little out of control, maybe totally out of control. But you have to be ready to do that because the other guy also needs to be ready to understand that you are ready to go up the escalation ladder and you will not stop at nothing. Okay? Now, the Pakistanis think that, okay, the Indians did it, we've done it, and that's the end of the matter. I don't think it should be the end of the matter. I think we need to start escalating it a lot more. Now, I don't know what is the level of our preparedness. Whether we have the level of preparedness and the wherewithal given how shabbily we've treated our armed forces over the last so many years, because every budget you hear one line, जितना पैसा चाहिए होगा उतना दे देंगे. यार, that is not how you do defense planning. You have to understand what your threat is. You have to prepare your defense forces accordingly. Give them the wherewithal that they need. Give them the equipment that they need. Maybe not everything which they need. Maybe they ask for too much. But give them at least what they need in what is necessary for them. But we have been lax on that count. So I think this is also a wake-up call on how we are doing our defense planning. So if we are prepared, if we have the wherewithal, then I see no reason why we should not go and hit the Pakistanis really hard.
Okay.
Maybe target the Murisa in Bahawalpur. Maybe target the Murid ke camp. If there is collateral damage, just too bad. What happened today was collateral damage, wasn't it? So why are we bothered about how many Pakis will die?
Okay.
I don't.
So I've just received word from Mir Farid, our reporter in Pahalgam. He's been briefed by personnel there that the number of dead in this attack has gone up to 26 and 20 are injured. It's a massive, massive attack. And their security forces saying that a group of about half a dozen TRF terrorists actually executed this. Gaurav Samant leads India Today's strategic affairs coverage. He joins me from our newsroom now. Gaurav, you've covered terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir for more than 2 decades now. This is one of the biggest attacks we've seen at a time when India was lulled into this sense of complacency that things in Kashmir are getting better. This massive attack, that too on tourists, not on a military convoy, on tourists. It almost seems as if Pakistan is asking for trouble.
Rahul, Pakistan has actually wargamed India's response or the lack of it, even south of Pir Panjal. You know, you spoke of military convoys. Multiple military convoys were targeted. Soldiers have been killed by terrorists. Captains have been killed in counter-terror operations. And India's response had been rather defensive since India was focusing more on the northern borders. But even now, this is, as our guests have very rightly pointed out, a signal which is sent out because the Prime Minister is in Jeddah, the Vice President of the United States is in India. The fact that 26 have been killed and several still remain critical. The fact that initially they said 2 to 3 terrorists and now information is there were 5 to 6 terrorists and more. Some carried out indiscriminate firing, others carried out targeted attacks. So this was a very well-planned military level operation on civilians. So the aim was scare the tourists, bring them into a kill zone, then identify Hindus and then target them. This is on the basis of what eyewitnesses have said so far. Indiscriminate firing happened. They ran in one direction. Those who were able to run away, like that person's video we showed, he managed to get away. But others were trapped in a kill zone. And that is where those who were eating food at that restaurant, they were identified by their identity cards, by their names. In one instance, there is an eyewitness who seemed to indicate that men were asked to take off their clothes and then killed. Now, these are horror stories that are coming out from Pahalgam at this stage. And while the security forces, we are told, are hot on the heels of some of these terrorists, there is the chase that is on. The UAVs are being used to scan some of the areas. There are some OGWs who've been taken into custody to know the areas where some of these terrorists are operating. So some of those operations are currently underway. But that big are our forces operating in silos or are they operating as one big team is the biggest question that Union Home Minister Amit Shah would be grappling with when he reaches Srinagar to take stock of the situation after meeting the injured. When he takes stock of the security, clearly forces cannot operate in silos if they have to defeat Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror.
Gaurav, how do you view the question of India's response matrix? One, of course, we've seen what happened in Uri, we've seen what happened after Pulwama, the Balakot strikes. Sushant Sareen on the show was asking for something bigger, saying go after the high-value targets in the army or amongst the terrorists. Don't just randomly go spray some bullets on a madrasa or on a terror compound or on a military installation. Do something bigger. So, you've been speaking to officials in the army. How are they viewing the question of response? There will be. For anybody watching at this time, I want to tell you very clearly, you can just see the purposefulness with which the Home Minister is marching up into that private charter, that there will be a response of that. There should be no question. The question really is, what form and nature should that response take, Gaurav?
Rahul, the Narendra Modi government's credibility would be at stake because this was seen as a very strong government, whether it was a surgical strike after Uri or a Balakot after Pulwama. And Pakistan got that message initially. You haven't had a terror attack beyond Jammu and Kashmir after 2019. However, it's a major attack where civilians and tourists from across the country have been targeted. Victims are from Maharashtra, victims are from Karnataka, victims are from different parts of the country. Apparently, there are 2 foreigners. We are still waiting for an official word on that. And this would show India as a very weak state in case there isn't a response. Whether there'll be a military response, there would be one at some level. Whether, it's overt, covert in other ways, That remains to be seen. Response will be there for sure, but as Sushant says, that high-value target needs to be taken out. So look, Pakistan is bleeding. It's losing hundreds of soldiers on the AF-backed border frequently. But there has to be a message that if you bleed India, there are direct costs. It cannot be that random overall Pakistan bleeding, because that message, Pakistan's army chief gave a very clear message. Hindus and Muslims are different. He said two-nation theory, because he's a radical Islamist general. If we fail to realize that, we are making a big mistake. You're not dealing with a suave general. You're dealing with a radical Islamist general whose only aim in life is to bleed India, and because he wants to shift focus away from Afghanistan. If we respond adequately, he will get the message. If we don't, then there is trouble ahead.
Okay, I want to thank Gaurav and all our guests for joining us. I want to go across now to meet Fareed again. He's in Pahalgam. He's reporting that the number of dead has now gone up to 26 with 20 injured. Now that's a very big, I mean, even one death is terrible, but that's a very, very big number. You know, you've been speaking to security forces who are looking at this operation. How are you looking at the response and the fact that you got Indian Army personnel now hot on the heels of these terrorists?
Yes, that's right, Rahul. In fact, it's a multi-agency effort right now. You have the Indian Army, you have the special paracommandos of the Army, the SOG, the CRPF, all of them are into this right now. Two sides to this operation. One, the anti-terror operations that they have launched, but also importantly to take care of the injured, to ensure that the dead bodies are brought down, and also proper treatment and swift treatment is provided to the injured. So these two aspects being taken care of. But yes, that toll, as we had been fearing, it will go up and it will go up drastically. Initially, we were told that there were many injured, but now even if you look at the first visuals that we got from the location, Rahul, there were bodies littered around, so you could make out that the death toll could increase, but it will reach 26. This is really a carnage, and we still have around 20 people who are injured besides the dead, some of whom are critical. It's a medical emergency. I could see 100, in fact 30 to 40 ambulances from various districts that have been brought. You have choppers also. Right now choppers service has been suspended because of the dark, but ambulances, you can hear the sirens, so ambulances are at work.
Okay, we leave it there. This is just really terrible. You know, this was where I was in Kashmir during just a couple of months ago during the skiing season, and I was just hearing such wonderful things from the locals there about the return of tourists, the return of normalcy, and in the manner in which tourists have been attacked. You know, most people would have planned summer holidays just around the corner. Most people would have planned holidays in different parts of Kashmir and now want to think twice about whether it's safe to go or not. And there will be a response. And these are not people who want the good of Kashmiris. These are terrorists, the Pakistani army, who clearly don't want Kashmir or Kashmiris to do well, and that's really what they're after. And the people of Kashmir have seen through this, but the Pak army still hasn't been taught the lesson. And from what I gather from sources in the government, the Prime Minister himself and the Home Minister and the Indian Army determined to teach them a lesson. The next few hours and days will be critical, and India Today will keep you one step ahead of the news. Thank you very much for tuning in.